All right, so the floor is open. Anybody who'd like to just say how their practice of surrender is going, what they've been working with, what they've been running up against, um, anything that you'd like to bring to the group. Yeah, Lisa, I see you waving your hand. I don't always see that, but I still have it on the little Hollywood squares. And now I'm going to put it on speaker view so I can see you more clearly.
Okay. So I was reflecting on causes and conditions
Mhm.
from last week, throughout the week, and thinking about some particular events that were mistakes that I had made. And one in particular was a pretty devastating mistake. No repair there. It was life impacting. And I had really carried that very heavy. Anytime I would look at it, it would be devastating because there was a big I in that. I did this, I did that. And then I looked at it with a bit of a different perspective of, well, wait a minute. There's not losing my agency in this, but there were a lot of other conditions going on around this. I may have been that last piece, the face of the mistake, but I was a part, one tiny little part of a huge system that everything had to come together in that moment for this mistake to happen and end in the result that it ended in.
Mhm.
And then it sort of removed a little bit of that I and me, and it became more of part of this system. And it did I felt the sting come out a little bit. Not that I'm losing the importance of my role and what I could do better going forward in prevention.
Right. It's not a recipe for avoiding responsibility.
Right, right. But it did feel like sort of a weighted, maybe not a fair judgment in the other way either. That that completely alone I caused a certain situation isn't didn't fit the formula any longer when I looked at conditions. So I don't know if I'm interpreting that in the way
No,
that
I think
it
you're
should
getting
be, but
exactly the result I would expect if you begin to apply that perspective, is that it shrinks the I. It shrinks the sense of shame around an experience,
yeah.
makes it more intelligible, makes it more understandable why something that would occur. Because what we tend to do without that is the only reason it could occur is that we're bad, right? I mean, if,
Yeah,
if it's all on us, what else can you come to? But oh, I'm
yeah.
bad. I did that.
Like horribly faulted.
Yeah, horribly
Like
faulted.
undeserving of walking on the planet, frankly.
Exactly. We do that with ourselves. We
I mean,
flagellate ourselves. And suddenly,
flagellation and shame and yeah,
yeah,
name it.
when you look at causes and conditions, you can imagine putting another human being in that situation and understanding why they might do the same, or you're just more willing to cut them slack. And so you're kind of doing that when you do causes and conditions. You're seeing what's there. And of course, causes and conditions aren't just external, they're internal too. Like what's happening in the moment inside of you, what kind of stresses are involved, and what kind of mood you're in, and how well you've slept, and how, you know, and what your triggers are, what the sort of things are inside of you that tend to get touched that really change almost the person who's responding. When you get triggered, how suddenly there's an angry person there, or there's a shrinking person. All those things, those are all causes and conditions.
Forgetful person.
a forgetful
It
person.
was a forgetting
Exactly,
mistake.
or a
Yeah.
person who's the wrong thing came out of their mouth. All these things are there is, they reflect conditions. And when you think about conditions, causes and conditions, it's less personal. It's more understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. And I'm glad you took it to heart and tried it out. It's
Oh, yeah.
powerful. It's one of those things about, the Buddhist psychology that I just treasure is this notion of causes and conditions. Yeah. Okay. So who else would like to chime in?
Hi. I've been thinking about, I really loved that last share and I could really relate. I've been reflecting on causes and conditions and sort of the dichotomy or maybe the relationship between surrender and receiving. I think I'm finding for me a lot of what I'm perceiving as causes and conditions externally are often internal causes and conditions that
Yes.
when I can shift into a state of surrender and relinquishing, it's kind of astonishing for me to move into that state of allowing and receiving. And like even tonight during the meditation, when I shared with my partner, I had meant to pop my AirPods in before we started and I didn't. And this is a very minor example of, and I really was able to surrender to the ambient noise and experience and noise of the household and neighborhood. And initially, once I got over the resistance and surrendered to it, there was so much delight in even receiving what was there. I guess I'd love to hear your thoughts on the connection between receiving, I guess, and surrender.
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, there's something I was going to comment on, and it kind of went out of my head. Um, so you said something early on, and I said yes to it. It was that it can appear that the causes and conditions are external, but when you kind of relax and open to it, you start to see how the causes and conditions are actually internal. The example that came to my mind right away is how you can feel like somebody else is pressuring you and then suddenly realize, oh no, I'm pressuring me. The pressure's all inside. And and so when you realize that, then you can drop it. You can drop your pressure on yourself. And then it becomes more possible to receive things from others. Sometimes people need to communicate to us um, their preferences, their needs, what's coming up in them. And it's hard for that to get through. It's hard for us to receive it because we've got these things coming up in us that want to defend ourselves or think they're saying something when in fact they're not. And so all of our kind of things end up makes it very hard to receive what the world's offering to us and see it for what it is. Is that hitting the spot?
Definitely, yeah. Um, I know for myself, and I don't want to monopolize our time, I can be
Take your time you need.
I
You're
can
fine.
have attributes that are hyper vigilant and can go into wanting to controlling and managing things. And this week has been spring break for my youngest, who has some higher support needs. And what an opportunity to practice surrender and
Oh
receiving,
my goodness.
and then
Yes.
being very present and open to his experiences when I can sort of relinquish my own and that urge to control. So I'll stop prattling. Thanks.
Yeah. So I mean, you've put that urge to control can be really huge, and that surrender is just the medicine. To practice that. What would happen if I didn't control this? And maybe your mind even offers an idea like they're going to break something or some disaster, but you can experiment with that like in a kind of an inquiry way. what would happen if I did not try to control this? Obviously, you need to have some control. There are limits to set and parameters and so forth. But often you can experiment with what would happen if I didn't need to do this. Or also the question, what if I weren't anxious right now? What if I relaxed? Would anything bad happen? Because often that sense of anxiety that goes with the sense of control has this belief that without my vigilance, without my constantly being anxious, something bad is going to happen. And it won't, just doing it once won't probably undo much, but kind of beginning to like do it as an inquiry, take it on as an inquiry of like, what if I weren't anxious about this? And then see if that could be, because sometimes you can't stop being anxious, but just I find it that often just floating the question, which doesn't demand that you like not be anxious, but it also doesn't accept the belief that you have to be anxious. It kind of goes into this middle path and allows your own system to like get gradually that, okay, right now, what if I were not so anxious? And maybe you stay anxious for that moment, but later ask again. Maybe you just might incrementally start to see what it'd be like and learn that actually maybe it takes less vigilance than you thought. All right, thanks. That's a great one. Diane.
Today I had a long ride, so I found a long podcast, and it was very interesting, essentially about beliefs, limiting beliefs, um, reality, and so forth. But one thing that just struck me in the conversation is, I guess, taking a line of questioning. I think he said it's based on maybe inquiries developed by someone named Byron Katie.
Oh, yes, I know Byron Katie.
Yeah, and it was fascinating because when you have a certain thought, I guess you question, is this true? And then you question again, do I know it's absolutely true? But what I found fascinating was, what kind of person am I with this belief? And then what would it be like what kind of person would I be if I didn't have this belief? And I thought about a few things, and I thought that that potentially could be a really powerful, like you're talking about anxiety.
Yeah. There's a Byron Katie question along those lines about who would I be without this belief?
Yes,
Who would I be without this thought? I believe that's what she has people.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you can kind of like pause with that question and feel into it, feel the free fall of it, because that can sometimes be the feeling of without this habit, who would I be? You're kind of in free fall for a moment. You don't know. So, all right. Thank you. I always like to be reminded of Byron Katie. She's quite a character. All right. Anyone else? Who else would like to speak? Oh, Elaine. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, everything starting with Lisa's description has really has been very poignant for me. And I starting with I think Lisa, it was so beautifully articulated for me, the being aware of doing something wrong, making a mistake, having a regret, and not wanting to relinquish responsibility. but I think the way it often plays out for me is kind of making steps forward more difficult because of the guilt and regret.
Right. It actually makes any kind of repair or a redress
Yeah.
more difficult rather than less difficult.
And then, but not being able to figure out a way, sort of, seeing it as not wanting to let myself off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
And I think and people do that, and you hear it with, I mean, it's easy. Some people have an easier time forgiving themselves for things. And so it's a challenge to find a way. I mean, I like what has come up in the Lisa's and other people's comments. I'm struck by the concept of reducing the power of the I in that somehow,
Yes.
kind of holding on to, not not giving up the responsibility, but figuring out a way to live with it that's not as destructive, as self-destructive. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge thing for me, anyhow.
Because often what's
Um,
injured is our self-image, which is different than actually taking responsibility for whatever harm was caused to another person or to a situation. If
mm,
we're feeling like the injury is somehow to our self-image, the injury sounds something like, I'm not a good person,
mhm,
right? And so we're constantly like rubbing a wound, inside about why did I do that? I'm not a good person. And you may have different words than not a good person, but it's kind of the same thing.
mhm,
And so there's this round and round and round, but it's that self-image that we actually don't need.
mm,
You know, maybe it doesn't mean you're bad. Maybe it doesn't mean that about yourself, but something happened, and taking responsibility would look like, okay, is there a way to make this right? Or is there at least a way to acknowledge that I did it? What actually needs to follow from this? And it's different than kind of the image to the kind of person that we want to be, that we feel happened there. That's more about
mm,
our image of ourselves, that by making the mistake, we've injured the image we want to have of ourselves, rather than something's loose out there in the world now, and I don't know that I can take it back, or I don't know if I could repair it, but that's could be where the energy goes, um, rather
mm.
to this. Does that make sense?
I think so. Yeah. Or it certainly, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I don't know how much of it covers, but it sounds right on about
Right.
something.
You mentioned, that
Yeah.
sometimes you observe people who are maybe too quick to forgive themselves, something like that along those
Mhm.
lines. That might be, a little more reflection upon their role in something might be helpful. Um, but I find that more likely people who show up in this class err on the other side, is they're much too hard on themselves, and
Mhm.
um, and kind of get stuck when there's a mistake. Um,
Yeah. Thank you.
all right, you're welcome. Keep going. You guys are doing great. These are all really great examples. Jennifer.
Yeah, am thinking about what we're talking about, and I mean there have been several things that I wanted to surrender to lately that um maybe that I did, and I can get back to that. But the one thing that doesn't resonate with me is I don't think I'm a bad person. Like
Mhm.
that really never comes up. But what does come up is more like embarrassment or
Social shame. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And then I feel this intense urge to fix it
Hmm.
by talking about it
Yeah.
and admitting to it.
Which can be helpful. That can be skillful.
It helps. It does help.
Yeah.
But I don't understand because
Skillful. But sometimes, again, if
it
all
could
the
be
emphasis
annoying.
is on you, it can be annoying. Yes, it can be.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can, right. But I don't know if it's the way we were raised or what we were told. But I mean, I personally just think that we're all humans and there's nothing bad about any of us. And
Absolutely.
I don't like, and I know that that's a common thread in a lot of people. So it
Yeah.
might be how they were raised.
And it might not be, I mean, we might be saying the same thing in different terms because, like, what does that social shame feel like? I mean, to me, it feels like I'm a little child and
And like hot and like,
yeah, you're like,
like spinning, it's like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It feels awful.
it does feel awful.
It really feels awful.
But
And
I
I
don't
the
feel
word,
like I'm a bad person. And I don't know, am I missing something?
yeah. Maybe we're just using different terms. I mean, to say you're a bad person is like a more sophisticated version of that, just that flush of, oh my God,
Shame.
it's painful to be myself right now.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I had an experience that I felt that way about, and it was my oldest son. I've been, my kids are, well, I'm 61 and he's almost 30. And I have always been the one to like arrange travel schedules. And anyway, I was arranging our family's travel schedule, and his girlfriend, and I only found this out through him, called me very controlling. And I was, at first I said to him, I'm like, fuck that. And then I later said to him, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to curse. He's like, it's fine. He knows me well. But then I went back and I'm like, you know, I I need to let this go because I don't want to be that person. And I felt that shame of like embarrassment. Like, what am I doing? But then I ran it by some family members and it did help. And then I wrote an email to them and I said, listen, I've been a mom too long. I'm going to let this go. And, it'll be good for all of us. And that
Mhm.
helped.
Yeah. Great. That sounds like a very skillful thing to do.
But it was hard. And it was hard because that's my habit.
Yeah. Yeah. And you saw yourself through a judgmental kind of label from someone else. And, but then you took the time to reflect, I think, and you realized, there's some truth to it. I could let
Mm-hmm.
go of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was my surrender.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Great story. Surrendering our roles, our habits, they're not easy. We've lived in them for so many years, outlived them in some case. All right, who else? Yeah, Leslie.
So, getting older is a great place to practice surrender. That's all I can tell you.
Oh my goodness, isn't it?
Yep, because there's no other choice.
What do you find comes up around getting older for you that has to be surrendered?
A lot of stuff. Okay. I'll say taking a walk outside and the sun hitting me in a certain way. I have to be like the Dalai Lama and wear like a visor,
Advisor,
or
yeah.
I'm blinded. My balance, just walking outside. It's just so much, okay? So much physical stuff.
So much physical stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
eyes, the balance, the
yeah,
stamina, you know,
yeah, 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 yeah,
the recovery time.
yeah. That's not so hard for me because I've always been a very laid back person, and
Mhm.
that's not so different for me. But I notice it. So I'm not surrendering so much to that, but visual stuff and when I dance, my balance, so physical stuff. Um, yeah, and I'm grateful that I don't have a choice and I'm just going with it. And I just find things to be grateful about. I feel good. My body feels good. I'm still here. My life is quiet, which I would want right now.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, yeah. And
It makes me
also,
think of the phrase aging gracefully.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And also, giving up to death, knowing that it's coming sooner. Each day is another day lived, and I'm one day closer. And I think about it a lot.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
do too.
yeah. So I surrender to that. And I do really think it's helpful that I'm not in pain and I'm not being challenged in any really difficult way.
Mhm.
And I'm going to knock on wood.
Yeah. And if and when that comes, it will be the same lesson of surrender.
I guess so. I hope so.
Yeah. No, I love this conversation. And when I think of aging gracefully, I think of what you were talking about being grateful, about accepting and being grateful for what you still have, which is really quite a lot.
Absolutely. My feet work. When I'm blinded outside,
You can
okay,
walk.
my feet are working.
Yeah. And maybe your eyes get blinded more easily, but
Yeah.
you still do see.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you find ways to work with it, like a visor.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's what everybody has to look for. They'll have really good practice. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Beautiful. Anyone else? Donna.
Yeah, I can try and go. I just love this topic of surrender. Just I feel like in the, talking about not even our own aging, but I've been dealing in our lives a lot with elder care and sort of the passing of the generation ahead of me, and feel like surrender has helped me a lot in dealing with that. And but I find it's a lot like meditation, so that you meditate and your mind wanders, and then you have to come back and you meditate, and then you fall asleep and you have to wake yourself up and come back. And it's with a surrender, it's sort of like constantly over and over having to just come back, to some things. And in particular, I'm having a hip replacement surgery in a few weeks, and I've had a traumatic surgery in the past. And so I really want to have the surgery, because I want to be able to walk, and the hip has impacted my life, but I'm having a lot of trouble, surrendering uh, to be out of that, to be that out of control, I guess,
Yeah,
in the
that's a good
hands of
point.
someone else, even, and I think part of it also with the traumatic surgery in the past, I think I probably blame myself a lot for that, which is really also kind of, if you look at the causes and conditions, well, I was asleep. I wasn't even awake. So
You were
I
on
don't
the
even know how
table.
I can blame myself. So, um, I believe I'm having it and I'm working towards it. But every day, sort of trying to practice a little bit of, you know, uh, yeah, surrendering. And it may be a situation where I'm not gonna go into this without any anxiety, right? I know that, but
Right. And that might be something to accept as well, that there'll be some anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah, I don't know where the surrender fits in, but I'm sort of trying to get it to fit in.
Keep using the word. The word, just calls for whatever is needed. Surrender. It is what it is. And good luck on your.
Yeah. Thanks.
Right. Let me see. Chad, would you like to speak? I think you popped up there.
Yeah, sure. Unless you, for time's sake, you wanted to transition to your next
No, that's
phase.
fine. We can do one more and then I'll start talking.
Yeah, I can really relate. The physical thing is a really hard to surrender to. I feel that physical pain just really sucks, and I've had some intense periods of it, and I've had um, some stomach and GI stuff where like I would think I was feeling symptoms that were pretty serious, and I would say, no, like I'm just going to ignore this. I'm not going to go get it. Not even going to go get it checked out. I don't want to hear anything bad. And the physical stuff can be really hard. I really dislike physical pain. I've experienced quite a bit of it, and it just never seems to get easier. And I actually get angry around pain. If I like just bang my elbow, like the instant reaction is almost like rage around pain sometimes.
Yeah. It's
So
such an insult to
yeah,
ourselves to be in pain. It
yeah,
is. Yeah. And there's so little control involved, it's part of
right,
the insult of pain.
right,
So, surrender to pain really means just staying in the moment with it, not creating a future of pain, around it. And sometimes it means surrendering. What can I say? I think I certainly feel like I'm entitled to a pain-free body, which is kind of crazy because I'm not, you know. And I think sometimes in our response to pain is that we feel um, like it's um, unjust, something along those lines.
mm,
Been feeling pain.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
If you peel it back another layer, like anger arises, right? And like
Mhm.
what's at the root of anger but fear ultimately, right?
Fear. Yeah. And what is it that you're afraid of when it comes to pain?
Right. Yeah. Ultimately, your death, I guess, right?
Maybe. I
Or
mean,
experiencing, I don't know, experiencing, just going
yeah.
through pain. I think of the Woody Allen, uh, I'm not afraid to die. I just don't want to be there when it happens.
Well, the medical establishment has come up with ways you cannot be there when it happens. uh, so yeah, pain's a difficult one, but explore that. Like, what is it to surrender in the midst of pain? Um, to let it be what it is, not resist it with the mind.
What's
Not,
that?
not resist pain with the mind. What would that be? That can be a little bit of an inquiry for you.
Mm, yeah.
All right. Thank you.